okay now?
Okay.
I would like to announce for the record that this meeting is being conducted pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953B concerning teleconferencing of meetings. Board Member Bazar is participating in a meeting via Zoom from 1315 68th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., and Board Member Cabral from McLeod Ranger Station, 2019 Forest Road, McLeod, California. In accordance with the Brown Act, this location has been identified on the agenda for this meeting. I would now like to ask the Board Member Bazar and Board Member Cabral to respond to the following questions. Are you
Okay.
able to hear our proceedings on this end?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes, I
Cabral?
can.
Do you
Let me,
have-
Yes.
yes,
Yes, Mr. Cabral?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes, I do.
yes,
Mr. Bazar?
yes, I'm
Mr.
answered
Cabral?
yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I
Has-
do.
Thank you. Has the agenda been posted at your location?
Yes,
Mr. Cabral?
Yes.
Thank you. Is your location such that any member of the public could participate in the public portions of this meeting from your location? Mr.
sure, if they want to come up here, yes. I don't think anybody in DC is interested, but yes,
Thank you. Mr. Cabral?
Yes, they can.
Members of the board, are you able to hear Mr. Bazar and Mr. Cabral?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. If connection is lost, we will continue the meeting without Mr. Bazar and Mr. Cabral. Call to order. Mr. Bazar,
I'm here.
Mr. Cabral,
Here.
Mrs. Hurst,
Here.
Mr. Rivas,
Here.
Mrs. Conforti is here. Public communication, closed session items. Any member of the audience desiring to comment on a closed session item may do so when the board president asks for public comments. Please step to the podium and state your name. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. Per board policy BB 9323, individual speakers may be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. We are going to be going into closed session. Does anyone have a comment that they would like to make? Mrs.
I submitted all of my evidence with the exception of this one. So large, I couldn't scan it. These are all historical grades of just our current seniors. On it, it has one of the annotations for the English and the math credits. How many they currently have at the time of the end of last semester.
And if we need to go to the mic.
Yeah.
For the report. Sorry.
I submitted all of my evidence along with my letter to the board. The one piece that was missing was too large to scan, and that was the copies of the historical grades, just for our current seniors. At the time that it was printed was in the summer when they were juniors. So now that they're seniors, it has their listing of their number of English credits and their math credits. On the annotations, it says how many they're deficient, whether or not they're on track for graduation. You'll notice as you go through this that about 50% of our current seniors are not on track for graduation. I listed that in my spreadsheet, that these are the actual copies where we were going through and identifying which kiddos need support. And I know you all will make the right decision. All of you have either children here or children who've graduated here. And our main goal is to make sure that our kids have what they need, including authentic diplomas.
Thank you, Mrs. Carr. As permitted by law, the Board of Trustees may request to meet in closed session for consideration of personnel matters. Thank you. Possible or pending litigation, employee grievances, student discipline, and acquisition of sites. Okay, we are going to go into closed session, and it is now 5:05. Thank you. I'm watching the wrong clock. I was told by my clock watcher it's exactly 6 o'clock. So, may I please have America and Andrea come up and say the flag salute for us? Okay. 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 This way so they can come on up this way. A little bit. There you go. There you go. Right there. Right there. There we go. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have nothing to report out of closed session tonight, and public communication, agenda, non-agenda items. Any person wishing to comment on agenda and non-agenda items may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. California law prohibits the school board from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the board. Per board policy BB 9323, individual speakers may be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the board? Yes, thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so I'll be doing I need to give out our attendance. I need to give out our attendance awards. So the first one I will hand out is the staff award, and that goes to Hunt Elementary. Second award we'll do is most improved or least chronic absenteeism, and that is Von Renner. And final one is our ADA, and that is Barrington.
Thank you. It's nice to see 3 schools recognized. Okay. I have some new people that have walked in. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the board since it's still open communication? No. Thank you. Approval of agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'm so moved.
May I have a second,
I'll
please?
second.
Mr. Bazar? He's no. Mr. Cabral is not here. Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Rivas?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. It passed 3 with 2 absent, no nays. Information discussion items. Our student board member, Grace Studer, is going to give us her report.
Okay, so leadership will be organizing the homecoming tailgate rally October 20th in the student parking lot. After the tailgate will be the homecoming parade downtown at 1:30. The senior class is organizing the homecoming dance on October 21st from 7 to 10. The theme is Footloose. And the dress up days for homecoming week. Homecoming week, the theme is music genres. So the dress up days kind of coordinate with a different song from different genres. So Monday is the Lazy Song by Bruno Mars. So students would dress up in comfy clothes or pajamas. Tuesday's song is He Could Be the One by Hannah Montana. So students would dress up as their crush. Wednesday's song is Pink and White by Frank Ocean. So they would dress up in either pink or white. Thursday's song is Paparazzi by Lady Gaga.
Yay.
So students would either wear concert merchandise or dress up as their favorite artist. And Friday is We Are the Champions by Queen, and that is Spirit Day. FFA. On September 22nd, the Newman FFA officer team and 10 members from the Newman FFA chapter headed to Camp Sylvester in Pinecrest to attend the Tri-River Sectional Boot Camp. On the way, they stopped at the Sierra Pacific Sawmill for an industry tour. After the tour, they headed to camp where they got to meet 10 different FFA chapters and their members, learning new leadership skills and attending workshops. Overall, the members said it was a great experience for everyone that attended, and they're looking forward to next year.
Thank you very much. Presentation on project financing options by Mr. Scott. Step up. You're way in the back today.
Listen. All right, there we go. So I'm going to, for the record, Dale Scott, we serve as financial advisor to the district. I'm going to take you through a little bit of pre-information and then talk about the options for the presidential election in November of 2024. I think you all have a presentation in front of you. Let's look at the two most important things when we start out. The first is the district's assessed valuation. And I assume that you all know what assessed valuation is. It's the underlying taxable value of all the property, privately owned property in the district. That includes residential property, commercial property, agricultural, industrial, et cetera, really everything except public agencies and churches. As you can see in this chart on the left-hand side, that is the total value of the assessed valuation of the district, and it has been growing quite substantially for the last decade. The average for 5 years has been 6% growth. The average for 10 years has been over 7% growth. We are still using, thank you. We are still using a fairly conservative rate of growth going forward. You can see what happens in down times, which happened around 2008, and assessed valuations really fell considerably. So we want to keep a lower amount as we work forward. Excuse me. The second piece of the puzzle is voter turnout. Excuse me. So here we have two different pieces of data. On the left-hand side is voter turnout for all of the voters in Stanislaus. Thank you very much. All the voters in Stanislaus County. We aren't able to get it down to just your level, but you can see that the main level, the highest level of turnout occurs in presidential elections. Presidential are the blue. And so if we take a look at the numbers there, they're kind of startling. Actually, just turn my page. So in November of 20, the last presidential election, there was almost an 80% turnout of voters in this county. And in 2016, previous to that, it was in the mid 70s. Take a look at the last gubernatorial election in November of 22, which has less than 50%. So then we flip over to the other side of the page. The pie chart shows the voter registration. I'm sorry, on the same page, just the right-hand side of the page, the pie chart. And so there is your registration is almost exactly the registration for the state of California, which is pretty interesting. The state of California is about 44% Democrats, about 22% Republican. You're a little more Republican, a little less declined to state. But the point of this is that elections in the state of California for school districts for the last 20 years have shown that those districts that are on in a presidential election have a higher probability of winning. And that's pretty significant. We've looked at this in these numbers now for 20 years. And what we see is that for districts that, if you take all the districts that have been on in presidential elections, so that's 04, 08, 12, 16, 20, we compare those to all of the other elections, whatever the dates are, gubernatorial, primary, special elections, etc. On the presidential ballot, the passage rate is about 90%. On all the others, the passage rate is about 75%. So that's a huge difference between the two. If we go to the next page, now you get to turn the page. Now we see the bond measures, the actual bond measures for this district. And I want to point out some numbers here that I think are interesting. So this district has had 1, 2, 3, 4 elections on a presidential ballot. I'm going from the bottom going up. So the year 2000, 2008, 2016, 2020. If you go 4 columns in, I'm sorry, where you see the percentage of the yes vote, 72%, 64%, 70%, this is yes votes. And then of course we had 59.9% in 2020. Anybody remember what was happening in 2020? Yeah, so it was a difficult election, but you still got 60%, even in a very difficult time. So I think it's clear in this district, oh, I'm sorry, one last one. So let's go to the bottom again. Election of November 2005. That was a special election. I'm not sure what was happening. Maybe it was a board election, I'm guessing was happening at that time. Passage rate, 49%. So, I mean, it's very clear that your voters, when all of the voters in this community vote, their support. But in the special elections and the off-cycle elections, they tend to be a more conservative, fiscally conservative voter that turns out. I mean, that's what's happening. On the next page, which I'm not going to go into much detail on, just as a list of all of the transactions that the district has outstanding, that voters are, that property tax owners are paying taxes for. The one I will point out is at the bottom of the page. It's what's called, it says BAN, that is a bond anticipation note. It was like a bridge loan that the district went into in order to maintain a tax rate at a certain level. And that is going to start being paid off in 2025. It'll be converted to a longer term, and those tax rates will stay the same. So that takes you up to date. I'll pause there for just a minute in case there are any questions about that, because I'm going to go, oh, I'm sorry, one more slide, then we'll go to the long part. So what we do is we take all of those bonds that have been put together, all of those bonds that have been sold, all of the payments, and those payments are locked in because the interest rates are fixed. It's just like a mortgage. It's not going to move around except for when you refinance it into lower amounts. We can take some estimates of what the assessed valuation growth will be in the future, and we can calculate what the assumed tax rates will be per $100,000 of assessed valuation going forward. So you can see that voters, taxpayers in this district are paying right now about $130 per $100,000 of assessed valuation. So people often say, well, what does that mean? Which is a good question. And the answer is it depends. It depends on what the assessed valuation is. And you know, in California, we have this very odd system of assessed valuations, especially for residential. 2 houses can be side by side and have a very different assessed valuation, very different tax rate. So you have to keep that in mind. So when a person asks you, well, how much am I paying? The answer is that depends on the tax value of your house, but it's roughly $100 per $100,000 of assessed valuation. Now, remember I said that you have this ban. When we convert that ban, I'm on page 9, into a long-term financing, we're going to do it in a way where the tax rates don't fall, but they don't rise. That's really what we're looking to do, because that's what we told the voters we do, that we keep the tax rate at a level amount. Okay, let's go and let's take a look at what happens in 2024. if you went, let me back up. Under California state law, a unified school district can put a measure on the ballot with a tax rate limit of up to $60 per $100,000 of assessed valuation. And I want to be clear, that limit is per election. Per election. It's not a total. So Palm Springs, for example, Palm Springs Unified, I think they're on their 6th or 7th election now. And each one of them has a $60 tax rate limit. You don't have to be at $60. You just can't be over $60. You can get on the ballot for a $10 tax rate. Get on the ballot for a $30 tax rate, but you can't get on for a $70 tax rate. That's just the way the law reads. So if we use these same projections, if we look at the assessed valuation of the district, and we look at where the current market is in terms of interest rates, et cetera, we come up with a number of $34.4 million being the maximum amount that you could go back to the voters under that election and ask them for additional bonding capacity. Is that clear so far? Good, okay. Now, what this shows here, and it's not to be overly complicated, what this shows is when you get that 34 million, assuming the voters pass it, and you have that authority for the $34 million, you don't get all that money at once. You take it as you need it. And these are examples of every 2 years, you might draw it down, every 3 years. But that is up to the district board on the advice of your administration, obviously. But you're not going to, there's no law that says you have to spend this immediately. There's no law that says you can only spend a certain amount. You can spend what you as a board want to spend and need to spend when you want to spend it, so long as we don't go over that $60 tax rate. That's the only piece of the puzzle. So I'm going to give you one more idea, but before I do, I want to say that what we would like to do from here, and then I'll describe this other idea, is what we've done in the past for the district. We would like to now go out, talk to the voters in a random draw of who is a likely voter, make sure that it is normalized, so we have an equal number of men, women, Republicans, Democrats, old, young, et cetera, and ask them these questions. How do you feel about the district? How do you feel about these projects? How do you feel about raising your taxes? Would you vote yes or no? A survey, in other words. And we would come back to you in a couple months with the results of that. I'm not asking for any sort of approval. We're under contract to do this for you. It's really just a nod from the board. Yes, we think this is a good time to do it, or no, we'd prefer that if you wait. And that's up to you. So that, anyway, that's what I'd like to come out of here tonight with, is either direction to proceed or not, just to let you know. I want to give you one more idea because I'd like to test it in this poll. Remember what I said, that the tax rate is a maximum of $60 per $100,000 of assessed valuation per election, but you don't have to have just one election. And we have done this in a fair number of districts, some successful, some not, but I think it's something that should be looked at, where you could go to the voters and do two elections at the same time. I know, that sounds odd. Sounds odd, but you'd ask for, let's call it Measure A and Measure B. Okay. Now, each of those has its own $60 tax rate limit. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do 120. You can make the tax rate 90. You can make the tax rate 70, whatever it is. But that's the way you can get additional funds above and beyond that tax rate cap of that $60. So when we started doing this, my thought was, well, that's a big risk, because people are going to shop. I mean, they're going to say, well, I don't give you this, but I won't give you that. But we haven't found that. It's very odd. We have not found that. We have found that it is either yes or no. People either are in or they're out. They're either going to vote for the school bonds or they're not. What we do on these is we describe different projects, but the project lists for both measures are essentially the same. So you will be able to, you won't be saying, oh gosh, that's in this measure, we can't do it, we have to do it out of this measure. You'll have the ability to go back and forth between the two measures as you need to. But from the voters' point of view, they're just going to get a better view of the number and scope of the projects that you're going to do. So within that survey, with your permission, we'll test that question. We'll ask people, okay, so the district's planning on putting a second bond on the ballot. How do you feel about that? Would you be for that? I'd vote for one, I'd vote for two, I'd vote for none. And by getting that information, we can come back to you and say, it's not perfect. I'll be honest, it's not perfect, but we can come back and say, there's a very good chance that you could do this, or no, this is just not going to work. Either it's not going to work at all, or you really ought to limit it. It's so close, you ought to limit it to just one. So that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yep. Dale, if you do that, are you paying two separate fees for voting too? Like,
Yeah.
But they're, whoops, both of them are on the same ballot?
They're on the same ballot. They're right next to each other, one after the other. But yes, you are paying twice. The county will charge you for the elections, just like they charge you for the board elections. Now your price will marginally go down a little bit for the second one, but they don't give you, a 2-for-1 sale.
And the other thing, if people mail in ballots, are you more apt to have more people vote than if they have to go to a voting place? A polling place?
Well, yeah, it depends on the person. And it depends on the
You still
election.
get your little sticker.
I mean, listen, how much you want to go into this, I don't know, but up until the year 2020, the typical vote by mail voter was a Republican. It was just an older Republican, and that was used by the Republican Party to bring out the voters, and it makes sense. That changed in 2020 because of what was going on in national politics. No, don't vote by mail. It's all going to be a fraud. Don't do that. And so we found that exactly opposite. And suddenly everybody, all the vote by mail are Democrats. And where it goes in 2024, I have no idea. But remember that everybody now has the option to vote by mail. Everybody gets a vote by mail ballot. So the real indicator of turnout is the type of election, presidential versus, look at the governor's recall. Well, okay, that was an off-cycle election. I think turnout was about 30-40%. So
I think in the 15, 17 years I've been on the board, all of the ones during presidential years have always been positive for us.
Yes. Yeah.
More people coming out.
That's it.
Are there any questions from someone on the board? The audience?
President Conforti, I just like to say that, you're going to find out here after the next presentation during facility project review that Mrs. Mendoza is going to do, that we have an awful lot of needs in this district. Some aging facilities that need to be improved. We have space issues at a variety of sites, and construction costs just keep going up. This survey doesn't cost us anything. It's part of our agreement with Dale Scott and Company, and it makes sense for us to get this kind of information up front to see what the case, because if we don't do it before this election, we're probably waiting for another 4 years after that, and we're just going to be so overcrowded that it's going to be really tragic if we don't get some information here. So I'd recommend that we ask Mr. Scott to go ahead and move forward with the survey.
The other thing that we found is that we passed the bond and it's at one cost, and by the time we get around to being able to do it and it goes through everything, it's way up. So I think we have to move it.
As a board, yes, as a board, Mr. Scott, we would like to have you do the survey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good day.
Thank you for the presentation. Okay. Beyond the Bell presentation?
Hello,
How are you?
my name is Juana. I'm the Beyond the Bill supervisor. Allison couldn't be here today, so I'm here to talk a little bit about our Girl Scouts and our Navigators program. Okay, I'll wait just a little bit. So yes, like I said, I'm here to talk a little bit, gush a little bit about our Navigators and Girl Scouts program. Oh, okay, sorry. There we go. All right. So currently we are happy to report that we're serving about 77 Girl Scouts throughout the district. We're hoping that this experience is valuable to our students. Each troop leader provides activities that focus on building friendships, girls in the sciences, and music and many other enriching activities. Through the partnership with the Girl Scouts, our students will be receiving a Girl Scout t-shirt, their vests, badges. Some badges we will have to purchase, but they're getting everything absolutely free, which is an opportunity I cannot, as a daughter of an immigrant parent who didn't have the money to do this, I can't express how happy we are to offer that opportunity to our students free of charge. So yes, and so the girls start their meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by their Girl Scouts promise and law. I know they are currently also including Girl Scouts songs as well, so they're going through those, they're learning those. I don't know if you've seen some of the Instagram posts of them practicing their songs. It's adorable, it's amazing. The key here is we're really trying to focus on the building relationships, building friendship piece to kind of foster that that necessity with the girls. So that's definitely our focus with this partnership with Girl Scouts. Now for our navigators. So I'm super excited to find Navigators USA. It is a really small organization. We are technically right now the only after school program that is implementing Navigators USA in all of the country. I just recently received information from some of their board members that they really liked what we're doing. So they're looking into expanding into other ASP programs in all across the country. So we're motivating them, I guess. And like I said, so I'm proud to say that the Navigators program, we are currently serving over 250 students across the district. And it's happening within our after school program. So all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in our after school program, Tuesdays and Thursdays, they go over and they participate in the Navigators USA. And so we're offering different things for our students. They learn about bird watching. They learn about all of those cool outdoor activities that they might not have that opportunity to learn. We're hoping knot tying, all of that type of stuff. So, and much like the Girl Scouts, they also start their day by their meeting by the Pledge of Allegiance. And then they go into their Navigators Pledge and they talk about what they call a moral compass, which talks about being honest, truthful, responsible, all of those great skills and things that we would love to foster in our students. We have several fun activities planned for both Girl Scouts and Boys and Navigators. All the programs are designed to give them a taste of the outdoors, the opportunity to explore new skills and learn about working together. At the end of the year, each grade will complete a culminating project to summarize their year in the Miras, Vegas, and Polaris. And at the end of the year, they will earn the badge for that year. Our thought is by the end of their 5th grade year, they'll have their 3 badges signaling that they've gone through all of the different activities for Navigators USA. So yeah, we're just excited to be able to offer this outdoors active opportunity for our students. And if anyone has any questions, I'm open to those right now.
I just want to make a comment. Juana and Allison are doing a lot of creative, innovative things with our Beyond the Bell program that not a lot of other districts in our county are doing. So, and it's a lot of hard work, and the students love after-school program Beyond the Bell. I still call it after school. So I just want to thank them for their time and their dedication, because we have one of probably the best programs in the county right now.
I don't want to toot my own horn or our own horn or whatever, but I attended a site coordinator conference last semester, and I just have to say that a lot of districts, large districts down south, were still trying to figure out what they were going to spend their money on, and this is close to audit year, so I'm just proud.
Camp. Camp Taylor is the camp that Kaepernick started, right? And it's right outside of Grayson.
Right, yes. So here at Modesto, we have our first field trip this Saturday, actually. Super excited. The girls are over the moon. And they'll do really fun activities, archery, all of that type of stuff with trained professionals. Our chaperones as well, our BTB staff will be in attendance. So it's gonna be fun.
Your parents have to transport them there, or do we have a bus that takes them? Or?
We are all meeting at Barrington at 7 in the morning, and then we're going on the bus, singing Girl Scout songs and traveling over there. And yeah, just having lots of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Project review, sorry.
While Edward is loading that up for me. I just want you to keep in mind the number that Del Scott mentioned, the 34 million. I just want you to keep that number in mind as we go through. Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. So I took this out of the facility master plan that we updated last year. And this was the list of projects that we felt were the most pressing, not in any particular order, but it's up to the board to prioritize those. But these are some of the things that we are looking at for the next bond issuance. The Von Renner Elementary School multi-purpose room administration building that we're working on right now. That'll be completed, I think next fall. The renovation of the existing admin building to TK classroom that goes along with it. The next one is the replacement of the 8 existing portables that need to come out. That probably will need to be the next project that goes. Bonita and Hunt modernization are on the list because they're eligible for state matching funds, not necessarily because there's work to be done necessarily that's more pressing than anything else. Oristema needs a new 8 classroom building, at least one. The high school pool is has been inhabited by swimmers last Friday. So that one is done. And then an additional TK classroom at Bonita and another 8 classroom building at YOLO. So we can look at which ones we'll look at how much they each are projected to cost and what's going to be the most pressing. So the priority list, just looking at where we are right now and looking at in down the road the next 3 or 4 years with the construction that's happening, the Von Renner replacement of the 8 existing portables is what's going to need to come next. Also, we are in need for a restroom facility at Hunt, and I will get into that a little bit more later. An 8 classroom building at Oristema and YOLO. Once we take out the existing portables at Von Renner, DSA is will come in and make us tear down our warehouse for our kitchen. So we will need to look at doing a central kitchen as well. That's why that one is on the list. And then the OHS needs an administration building as well as an 8 classroom building is desperately outgrown the facility that it has. And we have to remember that that school was built for about 250 students and it's now over 1,000. And then eventually the Orriston locker room. So when Dale Scott talked about doing one election and being able to generate 34.5 million, and we have a project list right now, which never gets any shorter, at nearly 60 million. So some of those projects will be eligible for state matching funds, which is a long process. So and this is in today's dollars. So the election being next year and then starting to work from there, things are not going to get, the prices are not going to go down. So this is a map of the high school campus. And there was a little bit of confusion about the administration building. We would not demolish the library. There would be a library and an admin building. That's not exactly rendered on this, but we would correct that before we would move forward. Really, I just wanted to show where the new 8 classroom building would be on this map. And then you can see the pool and the tennis courts that are there. Does anybody have any questions about the project list?
Mrs. Mendoza, with the way we had an influx a couple of years ago of many children, and now they're moving up in the grades. How are we doing with the new students coming in classrooms for the elementary school that we have now? Do we have sufficient room for them?
We do at this point, and with this new project here on Prince Road, we're looking at probably about 40 students across the district. So it's not a huge impact, and there is room at Von Renner to absorb that. And then, but with YOLO and the high school right now, we are at capacity, and we do have teachers that are itinerant. So we do, even with the new building that we just built at YOLO. So we are packed, and a lot of it is, we have a lot of support services for students that we didn't have years ago. So those are taking up space as well that we need to plan for.
So actually we're in the hole before we haven't even started.
Correct.
And then we have to go through having either a school designed or use the design like Barrington.
Correct. Well, we're not looking at building a new school, just a new classroom building,
Just new
one classroom building at a time. So
And
those are fairly straightforward to get approved, because most of the time they have an approved set of plans that they can just modify and go through very quickly.
Okay.
But the problem is having the funding ready to go.
Now the money, the rooms that have to be demolished or removed from Von Renner, do we have to not use that land for any amount of time because of asbestos? Or is there a way of, because that's going to add a lot of cost, right?
Well, that'll be part of the demolition cost.
Okay.
But that part I don't know, but have been a couple of different versions of where we could relocate that building on campus, whether we put it in exactly the same spot or if we put it in a different spot. Currently, there are not students in those classrooms, so anything that we add back is going to add capacity there.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions?
That list that you had 1, 2, 3, Von Renner should be 1, 2, 3. That's just my vote, but.
And as
Oh, yeah.
as
Renner's
we
bad.
as we go into the election planning, the bond language gets written by the board, and the priority list, the list goes into the bond language, not necessarily the priority in that order, but the board definitely has say over what. Yes, those have needed to go for a long time.
And also the blacktops, they're not safe either.
Second one.
The portables have been on the list for a long time.
Right.
However, that we couldn't take them out because we would lose funding eligibility, and you don't want to lose that capacity. So now that we've identified that as a project, that can be the next step.
And the other part, the Hunt restrooms, that's almost like a no-brainer. because of having our new classes there, we have to have that. I mean, otherwise, I don't think there's enough facilities for the rest of the students, because they take up more
Correct.
specialty rooms.
Edward, oh, there we go. So I can go into the next item on the agenda, which is the Hunt restroom facility. Currently, the students are there is a restroom at the end of the is it the B wing? At the top of the screen. The restrooms there are primarily used for the K1 and the autism program. And then there are restrooms on the side of the gym, which are very, very small. Which is in the A building. There's our small restrooms right there. So what we're proposing is a full restroom wing, which is right there, the yellow building. That will allow us to grow as that campus grows. That campus at one point was 4 classes per grade level, wasn't it? 3 to 4 classes per grade level. Right now it's only 2, but we have the autism program. We may have a pre-K program down the road. So we need to add some additional capacity. And I had, Edward, is there one more slide? Yeah, so this is the conceptual drawing, and it would add quite a lot of capacity in that building. It's very utilitarian, but we're looking at a site-built facility rather than a relocatable, because for the amount of money that's the difference, it's not that much, and it would be a much better product. So that's, and for the funding for that, because it is imminent, the board did allocate funding over the 10% reserve that we have for projects. And so there is money to do this building to get moving on that. And the timeline would be, the best case scenario would be Christmas of 2024. So it's a long way. If we're going to do this, we need to get started on it, because it will take some time.
The one question that I have, Carolyn, when we were talking about this in the agenda setting, because autism students have different needs.
Mhm.
So the ones that are currently there will be fitted for those specific needs then?
You want to speak to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the plan would be to possibly use the bathrooms that are closest to those 2 classrooms and retrofit them for students
Okay.
that may need changing,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Philpott, did you want the board to give direction on moving forward with the restroom facility?
Yeah, I think the same thing that we were asking from Dale Scott to move forward with the survey is what we're really asking also on this facility. You heard that basically it's going to take over a year to get it completed. We have the need now. And I think some of you have visited Hunt. We have I think a walkthrough over there. Is it tomorrow or coming up another week? A week this Wednesday to look at it again. The last time we were there, it was very evident from basically just the traffic pattern there that there is a need for a larger restroom. And this one is as Mrs. Mendoza has pointed out, there's not much of a difference between getting a modular one versus doing a stick. And a stick build is going to last a lot longer and stuff. And that's probably the best location at the end of that one wing to put that. So we'd recommend that you give us some direction on moving forward.
I personally think the restrooms would be most important, because we need to give those students the dignity that we give all of our students, and not something haphazard, and it lends to their learning ability too. I mean, there's too much. Sometimes when you look at our regular bathrooms, I worry about children who are handicapped to go into them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they have an aide going with them, right, Mrs. Betancourt? Yeah. Yes. So I would recommend that we start right on that.
I'll motion.
Motion.
I
Yes,
second.
no, don't need it, no,
Well, we're
just
gonna do
direction.
it. No.
Thank you for the direction.
Okay, here we go. The consent calendar items are routine in nature and usually do not require board discussion. Individual items may be removed by board members and presented for discussion and separate action. The consent calendar will be adopted by a roll call vote. We have. There we go. May I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I'll approve the consent with the correction to Amanda Fuentes' position of Beyond the Bell coordinator.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Great. Oh, here we have 4 and 3, 2 absent. Okay. Well, I think let's do it all as one thing. We have approval, warrants, surplus, approval, university. What, may I ask G what is the approval of the University of the Pacific Affiliation Agreement? Is that with our teachers? It's G. I can't do that.
Well, that would have been
Ma'am.
a better question probably before
Mr.
you asked it, but.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But,
I have
Mr.
an
Pruitt,
idea.
that's you want to explain?
We have different staff getting their credentials through different programs, so we just need to make sure that our agreements are updated.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't positive. Okay, Mr. Bazaar's not here. Ms. Hurst, yes. Mr. Rivers, okay. Number 9, action items, accept notice of completion, Forest Temple High School Pool Complex, tennis courts and parking lot. May I have a motion? Or is there any discussion on that?
No, you have to have.
Motion.
No. Polls open.
I would move to accept it.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Mr. Bazaar's absent. Mr. Cabal.
No,
There,
no, that was Mr. Rivas.
no, Bazaar. No, I know, I did that. Mrs. Hurst,
I.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti. 3. Future agenda items. Mr. Rivas, do you have anything that you'd like to, that you would like?
We have to.
Future agenda items. Hmm? We're still working on with the city and the pool, correct?
If I may, if you want me to go ahead and move to the superintendent's report.
Please
Yeah,
do,
okay.
yes.
So, yeah, I thank you for bringing that up about working with the city. We're still trying to work out a use agreement with the city for the use of the tennis courts and the pool. We have some ideas about how to kind of mitigate that prior to actually coming to an agreement. So we're working on that. In fact, what I wanted to report to you, and I think you heard that maybe tonight already, is that the PE department just started swimming there on Friday. They're going to be doing that every week with some instruction from our PE department. So we're excited about that. I also want to point out that you may notice this wonderful artwork that's around.
Yes, I did.
And that's from Beyond the Bell. So
Oh.
thank you, Wanda, for making sure that that's here, and thank Allison and Julie as well. The last thing I just want to mention is that tomorrow at YOLO, we have actually, it's at at YOLO, we have our beginning of Dig Pink, which is basically a fundraiser for against breast cancer awareness and stuff. And so that group has done a great job. I mean, I know you get a report later on what our result is. But if you can make it to YOLO, that game starts at 3:30, and the one at OHS against Gustine starts at 6 p.m.
Okay. I had 4:30 for some reason. Okay. Future agenda items?
Well, I think we just went through
We
this.
just went through. it.
Yeah.
Okay. Board reports. Mr. Rivas.
I don't have anything, but it was good to see all the awards each month. I think what Wanderer, all the schools. It was cool to see. So that's good. It's a good kids going to school. They get rewarded for not missing any school. Is it also being late too? If they're late to school or It counts against them, right? Okay, that's what I thought. And then also homecoming's in a couple weeks. Grace, do you know, you said the homecoming, but is there a grand marshal named or no?
I think it was named at my school. It's Cricket Jones.
No, for the,
Oh,
for
homecoming?
our, you don't know who it is?
Oh.
For the home, usually a grand marshal, right, in the parade?
I heard it was Mr. Pruitt.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, good. I didn't know. So I was asking, 'cause usually there was.
I thought Grace knew everything, so I was.
Mrs. Hurst?
I just want to say that I'm really glad the pool's open. Okay. And I'm really hopeful that we can get our meetings together with the city to work on that. And of course, thank you all for all that you do. That includes the students. You're doing so much too, okay?
I'd like you to, if you're in favor of talking up this bondage that we're going to go through, because if you go through some of our schools, they really need some cleaning up. It's not that Mr. Vargas isn't doing his job, our buildings are getting old. I can't remember, well, YOLO's the last one that I remember, happening, and school buildings get a lot of wear and tear on them all the time. Our students use them constantly, and parents and everybody else. So we need to join together. And if you have neighbors who have no children, either they're haven't gotten to that point yet, or they're already grown. The school is the heart of a town, and our children are really important. So if we work to make their living space a lot better and their learning space, it'll help all of us. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Almost.
Second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? There we go. Thank you. I don't have to sign anything. Thank you. Have a good day.